We're going to make an isometric drawing of a very simple object. So you see we have a rectangular object. It's 3 inches wide, 2 inches high, and 1 inch in depth. And we're going to use this tool down here in the option buttons table, and it is the ISODRAFT tool. And I want you to look closely at the grid that I have in the background of my drawing. Right now that grid is squares, and the orientation of the sides of the squares are true horizontal and true vertical. And you're looking at a representation of this rectangular object that is an orthographic projection. So I'm looking directly, true size, true shape, at the object. Now, when I enable ISODRAFT mode, you're going to see the grid in the background change. So here I go, click. And now you notice that the grid in the background is oriented at the appropriate angles for an isometric drawing front view. And if I come back down here, I'm at the bottom of the screen on the option buttons, and I click on the little arrow that's next to that ISODRAFT symbol, you'll see there are the 3 different isoplanes required to fully and completely represent an object. We have the isoplane top view, we have the isoplane right side view, and unfortunately, instead of calling it the isoplane left side view, this is an international program. So sometimes if you're in a third angle projection, that surface is going to be the isoplane front view instead of the left. If you're in first angle projection, this isoplane is indeed going to be the left side view, and what is labeled here isoplane right would be your front view. So we're in the isoplane left view, and I'm going to grab my line tool, so up in the upper left hand corner. I'm going to click on the line tool, and I'm going to just start a line, and I'm beginning anywhere randomly. Click. And one of the things you'll notice is no matter where I'm dragging my cursor, I can only draw along the axes associated with and at the correct angle associated with an isometric left side or front view. So this object is 3 inches in width. This angle that I'm currently drawing this line at right now would be the width direction in an isometric object. So I'm going to use relative rectangular. I'm going to use, actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on dynamic input. So you'll see that's another option button. This is one of the rare occasions when I use dynamic input. And the advantage of dynamic input is going to be this. Here we go. I'm going to turn on the dynamic input mode. Click. All right. Now you'll see as I slide my cursor, look carefully at the little text box. It's preset up for me relative angular entry method. And that angle is fixed at 150 degrees. So all I need to do now is manually enter the length. That length is 3, so I'm going to type the number 3, and I'm going to press enter. And I got a line that is 3 inches long following the correct axis. Now the next line that I want to type in here is this vertical line representing the height of the object. And you'll notice again, with dynamic entry mode turned on, it's already preset the correct angle for me. All I need to do is enter the height manually. So I'm going to type the number 2 for the height. And you'll notice there in the little text box, there's the number 2 that I typed. As soon as I press enter, I'm going to get a line in the appropriate orientation at a length of 2. Press enter. There we go. Now I'm just going to use my cursor to give it a direction, and so you'll see I already have that angle of 330 degrees preloaded in for me. How am I getting that? I'm getting that with the combination of being in ISODRAFT mode and being in dynamic input mode. So again, all I have to do is it's asking me to just type in the length. So the length is going to be 3 because this is the width direction. So there you see under the yellow cursor I have 3. I'm going to press enter, enter. And now I have a 3. And I can use interactive method to go ahead and close the loop. I'm going to press enter, right click, be done using the line tool. And that is the front view of this object. Now, if I want to draw this right side view is going to look exactly like this rectangular surface, except the angle, some of the lines are going to be angled, right? So if I want to draw that side view, I can't draw that in this ISO plane because the only two directions that I can make lines are at this diagonal and vertical. So I'm going to have to come down here to ISODRAFT mode. I'm going to click on the arrow. So you'll notice where the yellow cursor is. That's the ISODRAFT option button. I'm going to click on the arrow. And now I'm going to choose isoplane right. So that's the isoplane right option. Watch what happens to the grid on the screen when I choose isoplane right. Here we go. And you'll see the grid changes its orientation so that when I grab the line tool, the only lines that I can make in this mode are the vertical or the diagonal lines appropriate for an isometric right side view. So here I am, I'm all set up. The cursor has me already going in the right direction. So again, you'll see in that text box next to the cursor, you see the angle's already set up for you. Angle 30 degrees. All I have to do is enter this dimension. Now this is depth. The depth of my object I'm reading off of the top view or the right side view in my orthographic projection. It's a depth of 1. So I'm going to type the number 1. There's the number 1. I'm going to press enter, and I've made that side. Now I need to come downward some amount. What's the amount that I need to come downward? It's the height of the object, 2. So here in this little text box, I'm going to type 2, press enter, and now I can use interactive method to loop the loop, click, and I've made the right side view. Now I need to go ahead and make the top view. In order to make the top view, again, I need to come down into my option buttons. I need to click on the arrow next to this ISODRAFT button down on the bottom of the screen. And I need to go to my top ISO plane. So there's the top ISO plane, and I'm going to click to select, click. And now you'll notice, look at the orientation of the grid again. The grid has changed one more time, and it's changed appropriate to the top view. So when I start out here with the line tool, click, the only angles that I can make a line are the angles appropriate for a top view. So I orient my cursor in the direction necessary for the depth direction. And again, you'll notice, because I'm using dynamic input, I'm preloaded with the appropriate angle of 30 degrees. So all I need to do is enter the depth direction. That's 1, 1, press enter. And then now I can just use interactive method to loop the loop. Right click, press enter. And I've created the orthographic projection for this. I've created the isometric projection for this object.